So there are many of these types of miracles. Once someone invited the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for food, he only had a little tiny bit of food just for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and himself. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam started inviting everybody. Oh, call this person, call that person. That person was mortified. Oh my gosh, there's only a little bit of food. How can I survive? They all came. Hundreds of people came and they ate. There was only a little tiny bit of food, but it made everyone was able to eat to their fill, and the food was exactly how much he left it when everything was all said and done. So that's another one of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, and there's many of these types. Again, like I said, just from the top of my head, I can probably say maybe 30, but there's probably much more than 30 of miracles that the Prophet ﷺ performed. So these are all miracles that were there. Many of them, the mushrikeen themselves, the non-Muslims themselves, they witnessed it. Others were amongst the Sahaba. But regardless, the Prophet ﷺ performed many miracles. And more than that, what is necessary for him. And at the end of the day, it's not his job. The Prophet ﷺ, he's not an entertainer that, you know what, since you're a prophet, show me this miracle. Just because everyone has a request for some strange miracle, he's not some entertainer that's there to just to entertain people's desires and their whims, and whatever they want him to do, he's going to do it. No. The Prophet ﷺ's job was to convey the message of Islam and convey it with the proof, with the dalail, and the Prophet ﷺ did that in the best way possible. All the different miracles he performed, the Quran itself, the greatest miracle, the continuous miracle. Even to this day, there are many things in the Quran that we still haven't even began to understand. Yet they're there, right? Constantly, every millennium, so often, there's people, we discover something and we realize, you know what, it's actually mentioned in the Quran. So the Quran is filled with miracles as well. So that's a linguistic miracle, a historical references, logical, anything you can think of, it's all mentioned in the Quran. So the Prophet ﷺ, he did that. The example of the Prophet ﷺ would be like, if there's a plaintiff in a court case, and he brought every single evidence possible, every type of evidence possible, whether it was DNA, whether it was credible eyewitnesses who had seen them, cell phone triangulation, whatever, everything that you can think possible, a plaintiff brings as evidence against the defendant. And the defendant doesn't, not only does the defendant not have any of his own evidence to support him, but he doesn't even have any rebuttal for the plaintiff. That's the example of the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, he threw everything at them, everything they can think of, everything they wanted, he gave it to them. And from the question, from the ayah, you can tell they were just trying to mock him. They weren't really looking for the truth. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ was done. This verse is what it's telling him, is that you give them the information, you don't need to entertain them anymore. You fulfilled your obligation. That's as far as it goes. You don't need to do anything else. The Quran itself, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. The Quran has a challenge that if you have any doubt about the Quran itself, about its legitimacy, about the Prophet ﷺ, then bring even one verse that can compare to the Quran. So this challenge has been left there unchallenged for 1400 years. Nobody has been able to take on this challenge. So this is there. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then right after that, هَذَا بَصَائِرُ مِن رَبِّكُمْ. Again, we're in verse number 123 of surah number 7. Surah 7, verse 123. هَذَا بَصَائِرُ مِن رَبِّكُمْ. This is an insight, right? This is a basira, a foresight, an insight from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from your Lord. The Quran is without a doubt an amalgamation. It's a compendium of all the miracles, every miracle that you can think of. You put them all together from the time of Adam alayhi salam until now. You put all of them together, the Quran is a cohesive comprehension of all of those miracles. And that's why, if with an open mind and an open heart, you read the Quran without a doubt, you will find that the Quran will answer your call. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this verse with وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ, that it is a guidance and a mercy for the believing people. It means that no doubt the Quran is true, right? Is the the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the escort of the purpose of life. It is a medium that deserves everything. But the thing is, as truthful and as powerful as the Quran is, and as miraculous as the Quran is, it is only a guidance for liqawmi yu'minun. It is only a mercy and a guidance for people who actually believe. So there's a condition. There's a condition for this Quran that we are studying and that we are reading. That if you want it to help you, if you want it to be something that is a means of your salvation, you're looking for the truth. The condition is you have to, number one, at least want to be looking for the truth. If you're not looking for the truth, you're never going to find it. You can stare at the Quran, you can study it all you want. You know, we used to have, there's a graduate from our Darul Ulum, his name Dr. Mahmoud Chandia, and he studied in the comparative religion in his university. So his professor was a non-Muslim. And he said that, this professor was so unbelievably knowledgeable. He literally memorized many ayahs of Quran, many hadith, most than many scholars even. He had that much knowledge and ilm that he had. But in the end, when he was passing away and he was dying, he passed away a few years ago, he asked him, you learn, all these ayahs of Quran, and you know all these hadith, why haven't you accepted Islam? And then he's like, Allah guides whoever he wishes. Guidance is not written for me, and so that's why I don't believe it. So you had to be, again, he had the information, he was not looking for the truth. And that's the fact of the matter. Had he been looking for the truth, he would have found it. And that's the case with many of us. Many of us, we read the Quran as a formality. We study the Quran as a formality, but we don't really try to understand it. We're not looking for the truth. Many times we just read the Quran to affirm what we already have, what we already believe. Maybe we have some belief, we don't even really care if it's right or wrong, we just like it. We read the Quran to find it. If we don't find it, then we just leave it and move on. So we're not even we're looking for an objective truth, a truth that suits our needs, not the real truth for itself. So that's a condition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, that this is a guidance and mercy, but only for those people who are looking for it. But even those people who are looking for it, there is a condition, right? What is that condition? You go to verse number 204 in Surah Araf, Surah number 7. وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. And when the Quran is recited, then listen to it intently. The word فَاسْتَمِعُوا, in the Arabic language, the word سَمِعَ يَسْمَعُ means to listen. So it would be isma'u, listen. But that's not what this verse is saying. فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ, which means listen carefully, right? With all of your, with everything that you have. Draw out everything that's going on around you, drown out everything. And when the Quran is being recited, only listen to the Quran. وَأَنصِتُوا, and pay attention. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, so that you may receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that in order to receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to receive the guidance, you need to listen to the Quran. When you're reading the Quran, or maybe someone is teaching you, maybe there's a dars going on, like the Tafsir halaqah we're having now, the Quran is being recited, listen carefully, listen to every single verse, every detail, because that's where the guidance is. It's in the nuances, it's in the small little details that most of us will not even pay attention, we'll just look over. But that's where the guidance is. The guidance in the things that you already know, that you've heard many times, but because you constantly, out of respect for the Quran and respect for the ilm, you listen to it again and you admire it and you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the opportunity to listen to it. That's where the hidayah is. So the Quran, the condition to benefit from the miracle of the Quran, from its hidayah, from its vast treasure of information and knowledge and ilm and hikmah and wisdom that exists there, you have to, number one, be looking for it. Number two, you have to be respectful. Adab is key. Many times,